Okay, so here we are with Nanny T and Joseph, and Joe's got a homework assignment which is about understanding World War II, people who've lived through it, and therefore we'll be asking Nan some questions for his homework. Do you want to just ask some questions, Joe?
Okay, so what was it like being in World War II?
Well, it depends where you were, dear. I mean, if you were amongst the fighting, it wasn't very nice. But where I lived, we didn't have any air raids or anything like that. The only thing that I found in it was the difference was the rationing with food. Because we could only have a tiny bit of butter every week and very, very small amounts of food. So, but apart from that, in Leeds it didn't have any air raids, which they did in London.
Yeah.
A lot of air raids. It was very bad down here, but I was very lucky where I was.
Good. Okay, so what was the blackouts like?
Not very nice. I used to go to dances, you know, and then when I was coming home, if I was on my own, I wasn't very happy. Not very nice, but you had to get used to it. And if you were caught with a flashlight, you were in trouble if, you know, people saw you.
Yeah.
So.
Did you enjoy rationing, or did you find it stressful or something like that?
Rationing?
Yeah,
Yeah.
rationing.
Well, you got used to it, love. You had to. You hadn't got any choice. There was always different people who could always get you an extra bit of butter or a bit more sugar if you knew the right people.
Okay, did you have any jobs to do in World War II?
What, did I have any jobs?
Yeah.
Oh yes, well I was working when the war started. I worked for a big engineering company in the offices. And then I joined the Women's Air Force. In when was it? I've written it all down somewhere in there.
We'll take the notes back now.
Okay.
Yes, I joined the WAFs. And that's where I met your granddad.
Yeah, Grandad Wally. Where did Grandad Wally fight in the war?
Where did he what?
Grandad Wally fight.
Well, he was in the air. He didn't actually fight as such. He was an engineer, but he was sent to India and then to Burma, and he was out there for 2 years in the jungle, which wasn't very nice, I'm afraid, but that's where he went.
Cool.
How did you keep in touch with Grandad when you were away? How did you keep in touch with Grandad when he was away?
Wrote letters.
Alright,
Yes, oh
letters.
yes, airmail letters, yes. I used to write to him every week, and he used to write the same, and they always all arrived all right.
Very good.
Yes, so I used to know, and we had a code so that I knew exactly where he was. I can't remember it now, but he used to move around, and I used to get the map out of India and Burma, and I could see exactly where he went.
Did you have to get evacuated? Did you have to get evacuated?
Oh no, we had evacuees came to live where we were from London, because I was in Yorkshire then, and we had a lot of evacuees came to live near us. I used to feel sorry for these poor kids leaving their mums and dads at home, but yes, they came to Leeds and lived there. We didn't have any, but there were. I think we didn't have any because there wasn't a man in the house. There was some reason. But
Did you keep any of the letters?
well,
Have you kept any of the letters that you used to write to Grandad and he used to write to you? Have you kept any letters?
oh yes, I used to get quite regularly. Yes.
But have you got them now, the letters?
Oh no, I made a big mistake when we left Loughton. I'd got a load of stuff in a box in the loft, and I left it there, and I forgot all about it for years, and I never did anything about it. But I'd got all his letters. I'd kept them all because he used to write regularly, and he was a good letter writer, was your granddad. And he used to tell me, well, I knew where he was and what he was doing, you know.
What house were you in Loughton? What was the road and do you remember what road it was on?
Stonard Hill.
And what number?
It's
What number house was it? Do you remember?
Don't let me think. No, gosh, was it number? What number's this? 4. 10.
Okay.
And, did anybody from London come and live with you? Ever been evacuated to your house?
We didn't have any evacuees, no. But there were lots of children came, you know. I used to feel sorry for these poor little kids, you know. But came from, because old Granny Theobald, she was in London when all the bombing went on, and they used to go into a shelter in the garden, which they dug out themselves, and they used to spend all night in this shelter. And they were bombed once, the house was bombed. Fortunately, they were in the shelter, so nothing happened to them. But it was awful, that. And a lot of the people used to go every night on the tubes down and sleep down there all night to get away from the bombing.
Yeah.
But in Yorkshire, we were very lucky because it was a very industrial was Leeds, and they used to make, I think they were into doing bombs and things, but we never got bombed. We were very, very lucky, actually. And I was there right until the war finished, and then, of course, Grandad came home, and we came to live in dear old Hackney.
That's
and
in
tried
London.
to get a house to live there. What a job, what that was. Where all the places were bombed. Meg and I used to go around, and every time we saw a house with a window and it looked as if it wasn't occupied, we'd knock on the door to see if anybody lived there. Just couldn't get anywhere because the Germans had bombed so much.
Dust is not good.
No, it wasn't good at all. So, there we are. What's that?
The thank you letter. Joe brought it round.
Oh, yes, yes.
Any more questions, Joe, you can think of for Nanny T?
There
Any
we are.
insightful questions about the war, maybe?
Anything else you want to know about? I can.
So how did you meet Grandad?
How did I meet him?
Yeah.
Oh, in the queue for the naffy for a cup of tea.
Very romantic.
Yes, I used to work in headquarters, and they all used to come across for their tea, break time, and I was in the queue, and he came and stood next to me and started chatting me up, as they did.
What was his chat up line, Nan? What was his chat up line to you?
Not do you come here often. No, it was, we always had a dance, you see, every week. And he said, do you go to the weekly dance? And I said, yes. I said, do you? He said, sometimes. Believe me, I mean, he couldn't dance much.
Awkward.
I wasn't a very good dancer, and I was. I used to love the dance. I didn't care what they looked like, but if they could dance, that suited me. Yes, we used to go every week, and that's where I met him. He was a corporal in charge of a little group of men coming across for his morning coffee and afternoon tea, and that's where I met him.
So did you meet any Germans now? You didn't see any Germans at all, did you?
Eh? Do I speak?
No, did you meet any during the war? Did you ever come across any Germans?
Well, no, I didn't,
No.
because
No.
I didn't actually. Audrey did, because she was in the Land Army,
Oh, okay.
and they used to put the Germans and the Italian prisoners of war to work, and she used to tell me about them. She said all the Italians wanted to do was romance you.
Ciao bella.
But she said the Germans, they got on with the digging and the work. They were the workers. But she said the Italians just wanted to be romantic. And she was a land girl, you see. She didn't join the Women's Air Force. My mother thought she was mad joining the Land Army. She said, oh, you won't have to work hard, and she did. Believe me.
So your role in the WAF, what did you have to do?
I was a shorthand typist, and was I annoyed? I wanted to be a driver. That was what I joined up for, and she looked at me. No, You've got to be 5'4" at least to be a driver. So what do you do in Civvy Street? I said I'm a shorthand typist. We can't get them. So I was a shorthand typist.
You can still do shorthand now, can't you?
Yes, I still do it. Yeah, you do. Well, you never learn, you never forget it when you've had it drilled into you for 2 years at a commercial school.
Yeah.
It's very handy to be able to still do it. However,
Come on, Joe. Think of one more killer question.
come on, what's
Come
it?
on. Your Nanny T.
Come on,
On the
what?
walk. I'm just asking Joe to ask one more question.
Did
Make it a cracker.
Come on.
did you have did
Did I have what?
what was the Battle of Britain like?
Battle of Britain? The Battle of Britain?
Yeah.
Well, I never knew anything about things like that because I was in Leeds, but in London I expect they knew what the Battle of Britain was like.
But I've got a big more question.
Is this to do for? Have we got to do this at school?
Yes.
You've written it down.
Yeah.
Oh, you're putting
What?
it.
Okay. What's the most? What's the best and worst memory of the war? Something?
What did you like the best about the war?
Well, the worst of the war.
Yeah, but best and worst. What was the best bit during the whole period for you? What did you enjoy during the period, and what was the worst bit?
Oh, meeting Grandad and getting married.
Really?
I would never have met him otherwise, you see, because I lived in Yorkshire.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I've got the war to thank for that. You wouldn't have been here, or you.
Fantastic.
So, yeah.
Well, I think this has been a nice to capture this on film for not just for Joe, but for Joe's children, his grandchildren might watch this one day.
Well,
do you want to, a message?
have
Have you got a message to your great grandchild at all, Nanny T? What age were you when the war? It was 39, wasn't it?
When the war started,
Yeah.
I was 17.
17.
Yeah, so
17, quite young.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I think I was 17, 1930. I was born in 1922, so you can work it out for yourself.
Yeah. Okay, then do you want to say goodbye?
Okay.
Let me give Nan a little kiss. Go on, yeah, go on. Give
Not on
Nan-
video, not on video, not on video.
Not on video, okay. I'll turn it off.
Are you going to take a picture?
No.
Come on, give me a peck there.
Oh,
You big. Come on, you.
oh.